Our next speaker, you've seen him once, you've seen him twice, seen him a few times. He is the founder of this conference. He's a human dynamo, in my opinion. He's constantly writing, exploring, challenging, leading the business environment. His latest book is The Race Paradox. I'm sure we'll hear more about that in a moment. But first, let's see him in action on VT.
I mean, for the last sort of, I suppose, 30 years, I suppose, I've always had an interest in performance and why certain people perform better than others. And what does it take to actually optimize and be the best you can possibly be? Because the moment you start to get into that section, that area of your mind that optimizes what you want to do and how you want to deliver, that's the game changer, as you would call it. That makes the difference between what you thought you were capable of doing to what you can actually start to deliver.
Put your hands together for the one and only Dr. Carlton Brown.
Amen in Jesus' name, yes, I declare it. Any little seed I receive, I have to share it. Brothers, when they break me down, I can't bear it. Right,
You're going to be standing here or what?
Hold me down, I still hold. Rain falling down at the bricks, I'm still soaked.
Good morning.
Morning.
Etise,
Eye boko.
Ekaro,
Ekaro.
Awagwan. I'm a Jamaican. So welcome and good morning. And I just want to take a few moments to talk about the race paradox. But before I start to do that, can I just say, Shikenia, what a wonderful presentation.
Oh, don't ask me.
Hey, sister. But her book was published by an organization called Jacaranda Books. And Jacaranda Books was founded by a lady called Valerie Brandes. Where's Valerie? And the Jacaranda team. Would the Jacaranda team just stand up?
Come on, yes.
Jacaranda team, just stand up. And I'm being intentional about saying that because we didn't get the opportunity to publish. We could have gone somewhere else, but we had the opportunity to publish with someone such as Valerie Brandes, who had the vision to create probably the leading black publishing publishers in the UK and probably in Europe. And she's growing a tremendous business. So one call to action today, if I can ask you, go and buy a book. Be intentional about supporting black and African diaspora businesses. So that's the first quest. So what is the paradox? Now, Shikenia talks about businesses. I'm here to talk about organizations. Do we live in a paradox that there's a disconnect of opportunities for those who want to do business within organizations? So let me explain what the paradox is. It is what I describe as an unconscious illusion of inclusion. There is a disconnect between intention versus reality. So what organizations purport to want to do and what they actually do, there's a real disconnect in what they do, all right? So that's what I describe as the paradox around race. Whether that's getting access to finance, which we've heard about today, whether that's access to opportunities or access to the supply chain, there's a real disconnect going on. It's a set of complex, interconnected constructs that gives an organization what I describe as a cosmetic facade. It's a front, and it's an illusion. Having a corporate social responsibility policy, having diversity and equity policy is not what it's really about. It's actually seeing genuine opportunities and intention. Though I didn't realize that when I read 1984 with George Orwell, he coined a concept called double think. Have you ever heard of that? Double think. It's almost like Du Bois' double consciousness. But double think, Orwell said it's possible for you to hold two contradictory views at the same time. So on one hand, you can say we're very intentional about race, we're very concerned about these issues, but at the same time, you have your own views, values, and beliefs. So if I'm a leader in an organization, I can say, well, actually, we want to be focused on race, and it's important that we have diversity initiatives, and we've got to drive it. But at the same time, actually, I've got my own set of unconscious biases. So there's a contradictory, so you can physically hold these two views simultaneously. And he described that as double thinking. So we know the challenges of diversity, and I think it was Orwell who also described, he said we have There's a changing social atmosphere. Carol Copeland talked about earlier on about the narratives which have been spoken in the States, and companies wanting to do business in the States. You have to be careful about what's on your website today. So there are concerns about what's going on in terms of race. But sadly, 2020, the murder of George Floyd. There was a shift around the world, wasn't there? In Tokyo, in London, in Johannesburg, there was a shift saying, in the boardroom, we want to do more. We want to commit to more. In fact, they committed £200 billion to more. Corporate organizations in the boardrooms were saying, we need to change, to the tune of $200 billion. And you can see here, Apple said, we must do more. Netflix, to be silent is to be complicit. But what happened to this $200 billion? Did it happen? So this is where the paradox lies. Intention versus reality. So all of these organizations committed to supporting black and diverse businesses. Commitments were made. We want to do more. We want to hire more people in the boardroom. We want to have a recruitment channel through HR. All of these things were allegedly going to happen. In some cases, they did. But here's the paradox. Did they support the businesses that they intended to do that? The answer is no, it didn't really happen. And I describe organizations in four contexts. It's part of the race paradox. There are those organizations I describe as cultural laggards. They languish behind. They won't change the way they think or behave until someone forces them to, probably through legislation. That's the laggards. There are those who I describe as walking the walk. They generally try and do the right things, but they're still languishing. There are those who are beacons of change. They operate in an environment where they're definitely trying to do things positively, and if you look at their hierarchy tangibly, you can see the real difference. But then there's those who are stuck in the race paradox. Those who are high on talk, but low on walk. And they're stuck in this paradox. They'll celebrate Black History Month. They'll celebrate Pride. They'll celebrate Women's International Day. They'll do all of these things. And they'll even have great advertising to say we're different. But the reality is, when we look at their boardrooms, when we look at their supply chain for procurement, when we look at their recruitment policies and their actual recruitments, and we look at their tier, the stratification within their own organizations, we're somewhat underwhelming. The paradox is real. It exists. The great DE&I retreat. It's like finding someone to marry on Monday. You see someone, oh, I'm very passionate about you. I want to marry you. But on Friday, you ask for a divorce. This is what the DE&I stuff was going on. 200 billion, George Floyd, yes, we're behind you. But to yesterday, actually, that was yesterday. That's not fashionable today. It's not woke. It's not good enough. We need to really change. And here are some of the organizations that made commitments to change, but have now fallen down on that change and that commitment and that passion. Others have also fallen down. In the States, you remember Target?
Yeah.
This is a classic example of the race paradox in hand. I just wanted to share this with you for a minute.
Beginning on March the 5th, 100,000 conscientious Christians. You don't have to be black, Latino, Asian, white, 100,000. You're going to sign this commitment to be a part of this 40-day fast. 100,000 of you bare minimal. I'm asking you that after service you'll go to targetfast.org. Targetfast.org. I want you to share with everybody on your job, every person in your home, every person in your sphere of influence, every person who follows you on social media. I am believing for 100,000 people are going to sign this covenant commitment of not just prayer, but fasting from Target. They respond to dollars. Come on, and if they start losing $29 million a day for 40 days, we will break the back of the system. I want to go on record that not only am I asking you to fast for 40 days from Target, I am telling you to sell all of your Target stock. Because you made a commitment after the death of George Floyd that you would invest $2 billion into the black community.
To boycott Target stores. Here's a look at some of the protests outside of a Target in Las Vegas earlier today. The groups are speaking out against one of President Trump's executive orders that rolled back diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. They're also upset about Target's decision to end its own DEI initiatives.
Black people spend $12 million a day from Target. And just as we saw the impact from the Montgomery bus boycott, when we begin to impact dollars, then other people start using common sense.
12.4 billion lost in market value by Target stock. That's what happened as a consequence of being in this paradox, making a commitment that you didn't honor. That's what happened as a consequence in America. Not only did the share price drop, people stopped going in, their footfall declined. People stopped going into the States, into Target, into the States. But here's the thing, before I start to wrap up. McKinsey did a report measuring 1,200 companies, 1,200 organizations, and they compared the top 25% of their organizations at the top of and they measured and compared it to the bottom 25%. But what did they find? Organizations that have black or ethnic minorities in their organization, at the top 25%, it improved their performance by 39% compared to those at the bottom. And if you had gender, they improved by 25%. So if you were a black female, you're in trouble. They are such a powerful force. But what they're saying to you, if you want to improve your profitability, performance, and productivity, race and diversity is part of that process. It's good for your business. It's not a hindrance to your business. But there are advocates for change here. JP Morgan's, Apple, Costco, you mentioned earlier, Carol. They are advocates and they are beacons for change. They are pushing the agenda forward in the right way. But we must be intentional, and I'm reaching out to the organizations in this room. Please be intentional about your intentions. What doesn't get measured doesn't get done. What are you doing? What have you done in the last 5 years? And what are you going to do tomorrow differently to what you've done currently if it's not working for you? I want you to be Machiavellian, as Niccolo Machiavelli would describe. Not Machiavellian in terms of deceitfulness. We're not saying that. But Machiavelli was talking about being courageous, being driven, even despite organizations having a challenge around DE&I. Be courageous, be Machiavellian in your pursuit of excellence and your pursuit of inclusivity. The race paradox, people do fail on race. Let's not get stuck in that paradox of race. Let's be intentional. Don't be a cultural laggard. Be a beacon for change. Thank you very much.
Dr. Carlton Brown, thank you very much indeed.